Welcome, everyone. I'm going to give you, we're going to wait a few minutes to get started. And in the meantime, what you can do is, I'm putting a link in here to our feedback survey. You also should have just gotten an email. If not momentarily, you'll get an email with asking for your feedback. So that email also has a link for you to be able to give us feedback about the conference. And I'm doing that just specifically so that get your thoughts flowing about the kinds of feedback that we might find helpful to hear from you.
Catherine, one item of feedback, just a high-level thing real quick that I meant to mention to you earlier this week. At least for me, when I open up Zoom, I have the little, there's like a vertical view on the right-hand side of all of the images, right? Which means that whenever you have slides, I've got like the right little bit of the slide cut off. So for example, right now, I just see, we'd like your feedback. Science Gateway. Yeah, now I can move it. I can move that around, but just the default configuration for me, and I don't know if that's for everybody else as well, is to have kind of the images on the right-hand side of it.
That's can you share your screen? Oh no, you can't share your screen because someone else we're sharing the screen of the slide right now. Could you take a screenshot?
I'll take a screenshot and show.
It'd be interesting to see.
Yeah. Now, like I said, I can move it around, but it just and so it's one of these things that all week I've been like, I can't see all of the
slide. That's interesting. Yeah, because I have mine set up as a dual monitor setup. So so actually, because there's an option in Zoom to have there's like a dual monitor selection, and that lets my shared images be completely independent of the gallery or however I have person view. So if you do actually have two monitors, you don't, it's an option that you don't have to do, but it's.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
I really like it. I mean, because you don't have to put it all on one monitor. You can put it all on one monitor. You can do whatever you want with the two things. It just only enables if you have two monitors, basically.
I just put it in Slack. I just put it in Slack to you.
Oh, okay, thanks.
The image.
Oh, interesting. Oh, yeah. So yours superimposes. Mine doesn't do that. I wonder how that is.
Mine's
fascinating.
Fine. So,
yours is fine?
Yeah, in mine I can see the whole slide.
Oh, okay. Huh. Yeah, I think there's so many choices of
I'm
layout.
just being special then. Yeah.
What kind of device are you on, Alan?
I'm on a Windows laptop. Let me see if there's.
If you only just joined us, I just want to mention we're giving you all a moment to do the feedback survey, which should take about 6 minutes maybe, if we're not distracting you too much. And you can do that. You can also get a link from your email. We just sent out an email with that in it as well. But we're doing that so you get your juices flowing so we can have a conversation about what things worked for you, but also thinking towards the future of the community. And I will paste it in chat too. Here. All right, so we can get going now. Now that I hope you've all had time to do your survey or close to it anyway. Thank you for all being here. I'm just delighted to see that there's as many of you who've turned out to join me for this last final wrap-up session, which is essentially has the goal of asking from you what you'll take away from this conference, how we can make our next conference, particularly if it's online again, even better. I also want to hear from you where you want to see this community grow and develop, because my role in the Science Gateways Community Institute, and you've all seen me somewhere in this event thus far, but my name's Catherine. My role is for community engagement and exchange. So that's the kind of thing that keeps me up at night, thinking about how to get you more involved. So, so hopefully maybe a couple more people will join us, but I hope that the conference evaluation is something that's gotten your thoughts going, because we really do use your feedback to improve the conference and our other audience, our other offerings. Sorry. So, so for the remainder of our time, we're gonna I hope you'll share your insights. You can unmute yourself as you want. You can raise your hand if you prefer that, and I can call on you. But let's get started first with the question of the conference itself. So, to begin with, how did the actual experience of this conference being an online conference, and also maybe you have or haven't been to online conferences before, how did it align with your expectations and what you were hoping to get out of it? Let's just start there. Anybody feel like sharing your thoughts? Don't be shy, it's a small group. So
I'll just tell you, Catherine, real quick, that I stole an idea from you already. So the hold music, the intro wait music was a great idea. We had yesterday our biannual user group meeting for OSC, and I did the same thing, and everybody loved it.
Oh, that's great.
It's great, yeah. So I know that it's not exactly what you're asking, but I just wanted to know that I did steal that idea.
Yeah, well, the best the best compliment is when someone steals your ideas or whatever, right? Or something like that. I can't remember the expression, but yeah, that was something very deliberate. And if you want me to share my playlist with you, I'm happy to do that too. So.
Well, you know, I'll just share this. What I did, because one thing was, it was a little bit distracting. I thought the fact that there was singing as opposed to just music.
Right.
So I went and just pulled off of YouTube like a top 10 instrumentals of, you know, modern songs or something like that. So it was the instrumental without the singing, and I thought that was a little bit allowed you to focus a little more. And if somebody was talking over it, you wouldn't be talking over somebody singing.
Voices, yeah, we did. We do have a couple of playlists that are instrumental. Some of them were meant to be more mellow thinking music, and some of them were meant to be more lively, energizing music. Anyway, it's a I will happily put those playlists on somewhere in our resources. I'll figure that out, somewhere to put it, either on the conference site or email it with a future email. So. Thank you for that. Yeah. Any other comments about, the experience of the conference, or like what you were hoping to learn and how well that worked as far as being in all these assorted Zoom rooms and wandering around Kiko chat?
Sorry.
Oh, you're frozen for a moment there, Mona.
Okay, sorry, my internet must be wonky. I've just turned on my video. Hopefully that's better.
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. So I've been to a couple of other online conferences, and I think what made this one feel a bit more of a community, of a connection, is actually you forcing us to go into a breakout room. Because then that sort of forced interactions that initially, I was like, oh no, I have to talk to someone. But once I'm there and we're discussing things, it was very nice. It was nice to communicate. And I think that for me added a sense of community that the other online conferences didn't feel that way. So I think that's what I thought was very helpful in terms of making the connection and networking with other people.
That's great. That's helpful. I'm wondering, if there are any folks in the audience who, when asked to go into a breakout, refused to go into a breakout? I know when we did it on yesterday, some people said, well, I'm actually just listening along while I'm getting work done because I just have too much work to get done. So I didn't really want to go into a breakout. But if you had other reasons for not wanting to join, I'm curious, like what, I mean, I know we have plenty of introverts in this community, but is there anything we could do to make it more attractive or appealing or comfortable?
I'll share that at least. Go ahead, Marlon.
I was saying all the introverts can speak up now.
Calling you, Marlon.
Catherine, Catherine, I mean, heck, I'm multitasking right now while I'm doing it, but there was at least one, I can't remember which one it was. There was at least one situation where I was distracted by something else, an email, and didn't catch like the 2 minutes beforehand that we were going to do the breakout. And so when you said do the breakout, I was like, I kind of don't, so I would have done it, but so I guess what I'm saying is that more heads up that, hey, we're going to be doing a breakout in 15 minutes or 10 minutes, something like that. And, so don't get distracted.
Right. That's a really good suggestion. Yeah. And also maybe providing the information about what I meant to actually yesterday. I totally forgot, but I had gotten a screenshot of the slide so I could put it into our Google Doc. I don't think I did, or maybe if I did, I've forgotten, but I did, I wanted it to be there so that at least in the shared Google Doc, which you can see once you go into the breakouts, you could still see what those questions were for the, breakouts, but that's a good point. So I see we're having new folks joining us, and I just want to mention, so you should have gotten an email from us just 10 minutes or 15 minutes ago asking for your feedback, and some of the earlier arrival folks have already done it just as a way of getting you thinking about how this conference was, did it meet your goals, and what you liked and didn't like about it. So you can do that while we're interacting, or you can save it for later, but that was basically something that we really do value hearing from you about. And there's a link to that on the shared screen, but also in the shared Google Doc. So so carrying on, so I'm wondering, so further to Mona's comment, for example, how many of you have met someone during this conference that you might actually stay in touch with? You could show your hand, you could do reaction, show of hands, whatever you like. Okay, I see a couple of hands raised. If you're wondering where the raising hand thing is, it's under participants, but then it's also, you can do the reaction thing, which gives you thumbs up and stuff. So this is helpful to see. So let's talk a little bit about that as far as like how, are there better ways for us to support meeting people? How did it, were there certain things that made it happen more effectively? Did any of you actually use our networking spaces, or was it through sessions that you ended up talking? I'm curious to get your feedback about that experience.
I couldn't get the networking spaces to work properly.
Okay.
So I ended up meeting people in the breakout rooms, like the outdoor bench. So that's what I did. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I noticed you in the outdoor bench area at one point. And I didn't know if anyone was visiting you there or not. Yeah. Is that helpful?
Yeah, it was helpful. And I basically told my mentee that I would be there during the breaks when I can, and we can meet up there. And I did catch her and then someone else also. So it worked.
Oh, that's good. That's really good. I'm glad to hear that getting that set up was worthwhile for you.
Catherine, as one of the sponsors, I'll share that we had at least one person stop by and leave a note on the Google Doc in our sponsor thing saying, "Hey, I'd like to meet this week." But then when we actually set the meeting up, we didn't use the TicoChat tool. We just met using our normal WebEx video conference.
Oh, okay.
But that, the fact that they had an ability to leave a note to us that we then captured was good.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Well, and you could also have used your Zoom room in that booth too, if you'd wanted. That would have been an option.
Yes, well aware we could have done that. I think it's just, it was more of a, hey, we then communicated via email offline and fell into the natural, whatever our natural tool was, as opposed to within that.
Now, did anybody send any emails to people through the profile capacity? A show of hands or nods, or, well, I guess most of you, I can't see your faces. Okay, so Rob did. Anybody else? Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, because that is an option. You can click on someone's little profile it's a little harder when they don't actually have a picture there to find them, but you can click on their profile or go to the participant area and then click on it, and then you can send people emails directly. And it doesn't tell you their email at the time, but when they reply to you, I think you can see what their email is. So it's another way of reaching out. I'm curious. Okay, so both in the world of virtual and non-virtual conferences, is there anything that you've really loved about other conferences that we might try in ours?
Virtual or in person?
Both, really both. I mean, because in some cases, actually, I mean, one of the comments someone made to me in a workshop, or said in a workshop, was, you know, most of what you can do in a real conference, you can do in a virtual conference. It's just maybe takes a little bit of figuring out. Obviously, you know, these things like these different social things and the distractions online make some of those things harder, but it's, yeah, so whether it's a live thing that you really enjoy or a virtual thing that you've enjoyed, I would love to hear about it.
I'd just echo what Julian said about virtual being somewhat different.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, other conferences, it's like meetings at 8 a.m. all the way to 11 p.m. and then they collapse the hotel room. Having just, you know, half a day makes it really easy to attend virtually without an excessive interruption of schedule.
Yeah, that's great to hear.
So next year, when it's not forced on us, we might still want to have virtual conferences in this sort of format,
right?
As an addition to even when we can meet in person.
Right, right. Yeah, I appreciate hearing that, because it is exhausting going to an in-person conference. It's all day too, and I can tell you running it is hard. Yeah, so let's see here. We'll look at seconding the spread out schedule for a virtual conference. It breaks up the amount of Zoom in any one day. Yeah, good to hear. And I am watching chat, by the way, so you guys, I am seeing that. Thank you, and we'll be saving the chat. Any other comments about like things that you've enjoyed at other conferences, ways of interacting or formats of sessions? In a minute, I'm going to ask you some very specific questions about our platform and so forth. All right. I feel like you're saying introverts unite. We got a lot of that here. Anyway, okay, so let's talk about the format. So any comments about the KikoChat platform? I know it can be disorienting when you get started. We did our best to kind of mitigate that, but I'm just wondering any thoughts you had about that in terms of that versus other things you've experienced or what you would have liked to see.
So I actually did like the KikoChat, but I did find it initially confusing. And I think it's only because it's my first time using it.
Mm-hmm.
Every conference kind of use a different way of doing things. And so always getting used to that way takes a bit of time. But if we do this again using KikoChat, I think I would then be a lot more comfortable and use some of the other features like the email and the Rocket Chat that you mentioned, which I really didn't get a chance to try. So I think it's just unfamiliarity with the tool that was a bit confusing. I thought it was better than the other virtual conferences tools that I have seen online. So.
Yeah, and I see, okay, some comments about looking for the Zoom launch button. No, you weren't the only one on that. Let's see here. I think, I'm wondering, I thought about doing a video. You know, I did this sort of PDF slide deck to help people learn how to use the platform. And I don't know how many folks actually looked at it, but would a video, if it was like a 3 to 5 minute video, would that have made it easier to get oriented?
I think that would be helpful for me. I have done that for other things. So yeah.
Okay.
Say yes.
Okay. Yeah, I thought about it, and I was waiting for the Rocket Chat thing to be implemented, which of course didn't get implemented in beta form until like 2 days into the main conference track. So, so at that point, making a video didn't seem very sensible. But I do wonder whether that might be something that more people would then try out, so they didn't get confused, and we could show a bunch of things really quickly.
And Catherine, I don't even think it needs to be a 3 to 5 minute video. I think a 30-second to a minute video with the basic navigation would be helpful.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I know I've looked at, there was a conference that was like a Linux conference, I think it was. There was anyway, some Linux Foundation or somebody had a conference using KikoChat, and they had the guy who runs KikoChat make a video for them, and it was a few minutes long where he was showing all the different features. But yeah, I would probably borrow from what they did there. But you're right, the basic functionality is useful to know, and some of those extra things, because I think, for example, sometimes people wanted to know how to get to a document like those shared Google Docs. You can if you scroll to the bottom of where that window that shows the Google Doc is, like the embedded part, there's a little thing with a yellow icon and a link that says click to open in this tool in another window, and that basically just puts you straight into the Google Doc, which is handy if you want to be able to share, save that to your files or whatever. Let's see here. So was it too long to have, like, I know you like to having these shorter days, but with the tutorials in the first week, how was that, having that sort of week 1, lots of tutorials, week 2, then the main conference?
So as a tutorial giver, it was not as, I mean, it was good there was a separate week, but we didn't have as much time as I would have liked to have. I think Perk did a much better job for us than this did.
I mean, because you got to have 6 hours instead of 3 hours, you mean?
Yes. And yeah.
Yeah, we've never generally given people 6 hours, although there was one tutorial that submitted a request for 6 hours, and so we gave them 2 days to do it. But that's good to know. Because I don't know if you would have been willing to do it over 2 days, but just generally trying to keep it to 3 hours is sort of what the original, the in-person ones are almost always 3 hours.
Sure.
Yeah. Now I had a thought as I was going, as we were partway into the conference, which is my own kind of, still thinking about in-person conferences and not translating. But one of the things that I always find kind of weird about the in-person conference and having the tutorials beforehand, which everyone tells me is better because you're not tired yet. But one of the things I always think is strange is that all these people come in and there's no welcome session. There's no way to get everyone like oriented and introduced to each other and, so forth. And it occurred to me that what we could do if we did this again is actually intersperse the conference main track days with the tutorial days. So we could even start the conference, on a Monday with the main track and a plenary and all of that. And then day 2 would be a tutorial, and then day 3 would be another main track, and so on. I've seen some nodding heads in those windows that have nodding people. Thank you. But anybody have any comments or thumbs up, or, like, does that seem like, would that be weird, or, how would that be?
Yeah. I kind of like that idea. I think that you might have, or somebody was in a help window helping me the first tutorial day or something. I checked in, you told people to kind of check in first, a little tech check in. And I'm glad I did that, because I think I would have had a really hard time getting into the tutorial because of all the clicking involved in logging in. But I kind of wonder if it would work nicely that way too, kind of having a conference day, a tutorial day, a conference day, a tutorial day, especially if people are still trying to hold down their regular jobs in the meantime. Like, maybe you can schedule all your meetings on the days, the non-conference days, and not do tutorials if you're trying to still work or something.
Right.
I did 2 tutorials, and I thought they were rather intense, but I got a lot out of them. So I was really happy I signed up for them. So those were good choices for me. And then I felt energized and ready to come to the main conference. So I was like, yeah, all right.
Yeah, that's good to know. Yeah. Yeah, we try to really encourage people to check in at the check-in desk, just as you wouldn't walk into a in-person conference without stopping by the registration desk. But we had very few people actually do that, which I don't know if that contributed to people getting confused or not. But yeah, so I do have some more questions, but I see we're like almost at the top of the hour, and I had shortened this to be 30 minutes, so it'd be more palatable for everyone. But I know some folks joined a little late, so I might go an extra 5 minutes, and then we can scoot on over. If you feel like it, to the networking lounge, hopefully maybe we can get Mona's thing working with that this time. It's set up with games you can play, and for ideas for games. And anyway, I don't know how it'll work, but we can give it a try for those of you who are up for it. So another question I want to know about is for Learning Labs. If we had more conversations like Learning Labs and fewer of the pre-scheduled peer-reviewed type sessions, I know many of the people who come to conferences do so because they have to present in order to get funding to attend, like that's what legitimizes it in their budgets or whatever. But would you come to a conference where it was going to be a little bit more of like come and discover what's going to be presented, as opposed to here's what's already on the schedule?
So Catherine, I will not answer your direct question, but a related question, and that's that several of my colleagues were, I won't say complaining, but they were bemoaning the fact that they were interested in multiple learning labs that were being held at the same time. I know you only had 3 to 4 in the same slot, and we were trying to strategize who was going to attend which one and how we were going to bounce back and forth and everything. So,
interesting.
I guess what I would say is, hey, the learning labs definitely very, very cool. I would caution against trying to squeeze too many of those in simultaneously, because it's going to aggravate that problem of people being interested in seeing multiple things that are conflicting with one another.
Interesting. Okay. I've never had such great turnout at things like Learning Labs before, such that I felt like I thought people would want to go to like more than one at a time. But that's really great to hear. I mean, it would be running a mostly Learning Lab conference would be so much easier. So I'm just contemplating that opportunity. But it's interesting. I see a comment from John that he actually likes having the peer-reviewed things more, which is interesting. So, because I know people end up connecting more sometimes over the Learning Labs because it's more informal. So are there any other ways we can encourage that kind of informal hallway conversations that happen? We have the networking lounge, we have those rooms like you said, Mona. And I'm just wondering, that whether those between those kind of meet me at the spaces and the networking lounge, if there's something else we could have done to make conversations easier between people in between sessions.
Okay, I'll chime in again. I feel like I'm chiming in a lot
Alan.
here, Catherine.
I should just debrief with you.
Extrovert here? Is everybody else introverted? It's like you and me?
I think so.
I guess what I would say is that one of the things I saw multiple times, I think was really good, was that there were corresponding learning labs for a presentation. So I know we did it for 1 or 2 of ours. I know, the plenary, I think it was on Wednesday, had it, or no, maybe it was yesterday's plenary.
Wednesday
so being able to,
all 3 the Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, yeah.
Yeah, so being able to say, okay, here's the bulk of the presentation, and then, hey, we already have a learning lab scheduled as kind of a social space to talk more about this, I think is really one thing that we should highlight more and maybe consider in the future, that, hey, let's set aside a learning lab or some sort of social block for every formal presentation or something.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that idea too. Sort of a less formal for the, each presentation. And
That's
I also want to say that having Cindy on sort of the welcome desk, front desk at all times, that you can stop by and asking questions, I thought was really good, because there have been times in the other conferences where I had problems and I don't know where to go, and there was nobody to help me, and I had to send an email and wait for a response. So it's really nice to have somebody there that I could just chat with. Because there's been so many times where I pushed the wrong button. I ended up there and she would say, "Did you mean to go to the plenary because you're at the welcome desk?" I was like, "Oh yeah, okay, thanks, bye."
Yeah. Yeah, we debated on whether to have that as the room you landed in versus the plenary, but we figured it was a better way to encourage people to check in too. But yeah, that's interesting. I'm glad that that was helpful.
Yeah, it was. Thank you.
So before I wrap up, I just want to say, so I do have all these other questions that I would love to ask, and we could certainly talk about this in the social session as well. But if you want to come by the networking lounge, because I'd like to know, and so if you wanted to email as well, if you feel strongly about this, like where you'd like to see this community grow and develop, what could we do that we're not doing? Or how can we keep the energy going? That sort of thing would be great to hear from you. So you can come and chat with me about that in the networking lounge. I also wanted to reiterate something that that Mike said on Monday. If you were at the opening plenary, he talked about examples of how gateways make impact both in terms of foundational ways and translational ways and really crucial, useful ways. And he said you should tell your program officers and tell us as well about these different ways that your gateway community has created impact. One of those is how the gateway is important to science and society, and then also how the gateway plays a role in delivering that impact. And then finally, if this community is important to you, why is it important, and talking about that. So sharing that with your program officers is one thing that helps let them know that this is something that the community appreciates. But it's also something that helps us know how to improve, both in terms of keeping this community going and getting other things, events and such happening. So, so I'm just wondering if that's something that sounds like, does that sound kind of daunting to talk to a program officer about that? Or I don't know if some of you don't necessarily interact one-on-one with program officers and you're more further down the staff list in terms of those who work with program officers. But just as a last kind of question, does this sound like something you can do? To borrow from the Tuesday plenary, that one of the things they say is always have an ask, like, are you willing to do that for me? So are you guys willing to do that for our community to keep it going? And so I don't know, you can put that in chat if you want. You can speak up. I'm totally open to any of that.
So Catherine, I think that a lot of the NSF program officers attend PERC, and the reason they attend PERC is because they are explicitly asked to maybe give a presentation. Usually there's a keynote from them. So an ask might be, hey, can you come and give us a presentation about what funding opportunities or the direction of, say the SICE directorate or something like that.
Right. Yeah, we've thought about that at times. The fact, given that there are no NSF people on the call at the moment, I'll just say we did that our first year, and I've seen people from NSF speak at other events too, and because they're very limited what they can say, I find them to be really boring. So I don't know if anyone else agrees with me, but
yes. So it's absolutely boring, but I think what that does is, it raises awareness, and then they tend to jump into some of the other sessions.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
For example, at PERC, I know we had Amy Wilson and others that gave presentations. I saw several of the program officers from NSF jump in to our Open On Demand XGMod tutorial. which is amazing. Now, they didn't stay for that long, but they were in there for a little while. And so the only reason I think they were in there is because they were involved with the conference to begin with.
Yeah, we did have Alan Sussman from NSF here, and he registered. We invited a bunch of people that we know who are interested in gateways specifically to attend, and he was one of them, along with also Ishwar Chandramulaswaran from NIH. He was wandering around, but and there was a couple other people. There's someone from USDA and another person from NIH who came, but I didn't see them around, so I don't know if they actually attended. But I like that suggestion, Noreen, a learning lab on grant writing, proposal writing. That's a neat idea. All right, so I've taken up more of your time than I should have. So I want to encourage you all to head over to the networking lounge and try to get that figured out if you can. I would love to see you there and play some games or just chat. It's really neat. Basically, the idea is you just you'll take a quick picture. If it doesn't work, it'll put your initials there, but you have to let it use your camera and voice and microphone, obviously. But then as you move your circle around, if you get close enough to another circle, you pop up into a little meeting like this. So hope you'll join me for that. But most of all, thank you all for taking time out of your day to join this session, and also for taking a chance on this online conference. We didn't know what to expect. We'll have to wait and see what's feasible next year. If it does happen next year in person, it would be in Bethesda, as it was supposed to this year. And of course, we're always looking for volunteers who want to be part of shaping the next year's conference. I don't know if Alan or Rob want to speak to how much work it is. I also see Jack, who's helped in the past more than once. Just looking to see if any other volunteers that we've had. But you know, I think it's a fun thing to do. So I hope that
well, it's made easier and tempered by the fact that Catherine does something like 95% of the work. So, you know, so
that's true.
It's not like running a program.
Yeah, a lot of us is just, you know, us meeting and talking and providing kind of a sounding board. So
yeah. Well, thanks for pointing that out.
It was a great experience for me being involved. I've enjoyed it from start to finish, both the preparation and the getting the conference off, and it happened really well. And Catherine, you deserve a big round of applause, and know that you probably don't want to see that, but you've done wonderful work to make this this conference what it was. So
yeah, I'm taking a vacation. So, yeah. Well, and I'm glad you all are enjoying your goodie kits too, your surprise essentials packages. So if any of you did not get one, do let me know, because we can send out some even after the fact. We do still have some left. So yeah, and Lee, yours cost a little more to send, I'll have you know, but it was worth, I thought it was worth sending to Canada. We did not send them to.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, well, it was cheaper than sending to Spain, Amsterdam, or South Africa, which was like $166 for one of them. And Australia was one of the places. So we just wrote them a nice note saying, we're sorry, we're not doing this intentionally, but it costs more than the cost of your registration and the value of the things inside.
Just give them a check and say, go buy yourself some snacks.
Yeah, some popcorn, microwave popcorn, yeah. Yeah. So anyway, well, thank you all. I hope you will. I will. Let's see. Do I have this in my clipboard? Here again is the link to the feedback form, but also you should have gotten an email like 45 minutes ago with a link to the feedback form, and also resources for getting back to the accessing the different documents and shared things that we have had available in this platform. They don't go away. You just have to go to the schedule to find the previous events, and they're all still there. They just don't show on the homepage. So, so do look at that email and give us some feedback. And if you want to send me any private comments as well, you can email me directly at kathla@umich.edu, or send it to help@sciencegateways.org, which also comes to me and my colleagues. So, so with that, I will look forward to seeing you guys all over in the networking lounge if you're game to sit around and play a few fun, low stress and low equipment games. I think one of them requires paper, but that's about it. So,
Thanks,
so
Catherine.
thank you. Yeah, thank you all for coming to this. I really appreciate getting your feedback. It's very helpful.